While Desert Crime usually identifies the individuals involved in the cases we cover, this episode is different. As the minors at the center of this story, we have withheld names and specific locations to protect the child's identity. There is a story many families tell themselves that taking in a child from a village, from a poorer household, is an act of kindness. That offering food, shelter, and opportunity is generosity. That bringing a child closer to better prospects is a gift. In many Namibian households, this practice is common. A child is taken in by relatives or family friends. Promises are made of school, care, and generally a better future. But sometimes these promises shift. The child becomes the help, cooking, cleaning, caring for other children, not as a favor, but as a debt. A debt for being taken in, a debt for food, a debt for existing in someone else's home. And in some cases, school just never comes. This episode is about one of those cases, not because it is common, but because when it goes wrong, it goes devastatingly wrong. Welcome back to Desert Crime.
This podcast discusses real crimes and may include images and descriptions of violence and sensitive content. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
In 2015, an 11-year-old girl was brought into Namibia from Angola under the promise of education. Her mother believed she was being given an opportunity, a chance to learn, a chance to grow, a chance at something better. Instead, the child was never enrolled in school. She became a domestic worker in the very home that was meant to protect her. She cooked, she cleaned, she cared for children who were not her own.
Some would take in children because they need an extra hand. Some they will take in children because they don't have their own children, so they want to take care of a child even though it's not their own. So because there are families who dream to have children and they can't. So some just do within family. If I have a sister who has a child and they can't care for them, I can take in the child. But there are also those who don't have the best interest of the children at hand. They want to use the children either to do the house chores because they don't have anybody else, which is also wrong.
And over time, the boundaries that should never be crossed were crossed repeatedly. The home belonged to a married couple. From the outside, there was nothing to suggest danger, no visible signs of crisis, no alarms raised. Inside, the child lived under control. Over a period of 3 years, she was raped on multiple occasions by the husband of the household. She was threatened into silence, told that if she spoke, she would be harmed. She was a child, isolated, dependent, and far from home. What makes this case especially difficult is not only the violence itself, it is the context that allowed it to happen. The expectation that a child must repay, care with labor. The belief that silence is part of gratitude. The idea that help can be conditional. And the reality that children in these situations often fall outside the attention of schools, neighbors, and institutions because they were never formally registered anywhere to begin with. When the case finally reached court, it was not treated as a misunderstanding or a family dispute. The Oshakati High Court recognized the harm for what it was. The husband was convicted on multiple counts of rape. The court heard testimony from a social worker who described the child as severely traumatized. Her sense of safety permanently altered by years of abuse carried out in silence.
Psychologically, what can happen to them is that because now the world that they deemed as safe is not safe to them, that world becomes shattered. They don't see safety, and especially now that the person that was supposed to care for them is the person that is abusing them, then trust is not a thing in their world, and becomes very difficult to trust any other person because already the person they trusted couldn't keep them safe. Now it becomes very difficult for them to trust any other person.
There is another part of this story that unsettles people, often more than the violence itself. A woman was involved, not on the margins, not unknowingly, but inside the household where the child lived. And that raises a question many people are uncomfortable asking. How could a woman allow this to happen? Society often expects women to be protectors by default. Mothers, givers, shields. When harm happens in a home, the assumption is that a woman, if present, would intervene. But this case forces us to confront a more difficult reality. Not all women protect. Some comply, some enable, some participate, and the reasons are rarely simple.
A lot of enabling dynamics can be because these people depend on the perpetrator, like financial dependency on the perpetrator. It can also be, that social status where this can be heard elsewhere. So we are going to deal with it within the family. So with that, it's likely that this adult is enabling what is happening because there's a kind of, either there's also manipulation within it, or there's also a kind of dependency on this perpetrator, thinking that if this perpetrator is gone, then what will happen to us? So with that can be one of the enabling factors where they are dependent on the person, or they are trying to keep issues within the family because of either social status, and that thing of they can deal with it within the family as well.
In court, the woman was not treated as an innocent bystander. She was convicted for her role in bringing the child into Namibia and failing to protect her. The court did not accept the idea that ignorance or distance absolved responsibility, which raises another question. Was she threatened? Was she controlled? Or did she comply willingly?
If maybe this is a person that is feared, or sometimes it can also be history of abuse as well, because then the person becomes helpless. There's that helplessness that they've developed within themselves if they've gone through abuse as well. Or there's been other forms of abuse happening from the same person, then there's that fear as well to report or to do anything about the abuse.
The record does not show any evidence that she acted under duress, and that silence is heavy. Sometimes complicity does not look like cruelty. It looks like choosing order over disruption, like preserving a household over protecting a child, like turning away because confronting the truth would collapse everything familiar. In many abusive environments, harm is not sustained by one person alone, but by those who look away, minimize, or reframe what is happening. There is also a deeper discomfort here. We are quick to condemn violent men, slower to confront complicit women, because acknowledging that women can enable harm forces us to abandon a comforting narrative. That cruelty is always external, always masculine, always obvious. But history and courtrooms, they tell a different story. This case invites a harder reflection. How many women have chosen silence because speaking out would cost them security? How many have rationalized harm as discipline, debt, or obedience? How many have convinced themselves that what is happening is not that bad? And how many children have learned from watching them that survival sometimes means staying quiet? The court's judgment did not attempt to answer all of these questions, but it did make one thing clear. Care without accountability is not care, and silence, when it enables harm, becomes part of the crime.
Legally, they have to make sure they look at the best interest of the child. And according to the Child Care and Protection Act, all children who might be in need of care, or there's any forms of abuse, they have to report. So they are obligated to make sure the children are safe and to also make sure that the children are cared for and they are nurtured for.
Sentences acknowledged not only the crimes, but the breach of trust. And she was sentenced for smuggling the child into the country and for not taking care of her. This case forces us to ask, yet again, another uncomfortable question. When does help become control? When does obligation become exploitation? And how many children live invisible lives inside homes that appear ordinary from the outside? This is not a story about culture being criminal. It is a story about what happens when power goes unchecked, when promises are unmonitored, and when children are taught that gratitude requires silence. This has been Desert Crime. Some crimes happen in the open, others happen slowly, inside homes, inside systems, inside traditions that were never meant to cause harm. And sometimes justice arrives only after years of quiet suffering. Thank you for listening.